What's going on, guys? It's Robert from Robert Was Here with another, well, this isn't really a review. This is pretty much why I did not care for Captain America Civil War. Let me start off by saying I get it. Comic book movies aren't made for comic book fans. They're made to make money. I know that. I don't walk into movies expecting to be just like the comics. It's not the comic Marvel's 616 universe. I know that. It's its own separate universe with its own continuity made for casual moviegoers. I know that. With all that said, Captain America 3 simply should not have been titled Civil War, as that comes with certain expectations which it fails to deliver. This is why I don't care for the film. It's really just Avengers 2.5. What was Civil War originally, you might be asking yourself? Here's a short clip from Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 2 to sum up what Civil War was about.
And so, to answer your question, Mr. Senator, in spite of these recent events, I don't believe forcing superheroes to register with the government is the answer. This law would split the hero community right down the middle, with consequences I'm not sure any of us want to ponder.
Was that really your best shot?
Sneaking around doesn't become you, Steve.
Maybe I'll need to practice. Maybe we all will.
Don't be so melodramatic. This whole thing would affect you least of all. You're already deputized.
You almost sound like you agree with them. This Registration Act would tear down everything we've done, destroy a century-old tradition of...
I'm trying to save it, Steve. As much of it as I can, anyway. Don't you see where this is headed? All it's going to take is one more slip-up by anyone in a cape, and we'll be lucky if registration is the worst they do. They could just turn us all into criminals, hunt us all down.
No, they won't, Tony. Not in my country.
Due to the Superhuman Registration Act, essentially after another tragedy that costed innocent lives happened, the American government demanded that going forward, superheroes must register with the government in order to continue crime-fighting activities.
My fellow superhumans, I'm calling on you today to unite and do the right thing. Not just the right thing for us, but for the whole world. Recent events have left the public doubting us, but we have a chance to exercise our responsibility and earn back public trust. The Superhuman Registration Act will not stop us fighting crime and saving lives. It will help give us increased accountability and a mandate from the citizens to act on their behalf. It gives us the chance to once again be the good guys. Register today. It's the right thing to do, and it's the law.
Those who refuse to register would then be deemed criminals. Captain America is known as a goody two-shoes, Boy Scout of sorts, making him like a boring character who always upholds and follows the rules. Considering how patriotic he is, you would think that Captain America will be the first in line to side with the government register for the Superhero Registration Act.
This is just completely insane, Hill. I won't do it.
I'm sorry, was it not clear I was giving you an order?
You're asking me to arrest people who risk their lives for this country every day.
No, I'm ordering you to obey the will of the American people, Captain. Either you help us bring them in, or we'll bring you in.
Weapons down, gentlemen. Or I...
Trank darts, now! Take him down! Take him down!
Keep us moving, son, if you want to stay conscious.
You idiot. We were trying to save lives.
You'd also be wrong just like I was. Why would this Boy Scout go against the government?
The right thing to do is not to turn superheroes into common criminals just because they stand up for their civil liberties. It's not to bind with red tape the hands of those who seek to protect the innocent. It's not to endanger those who risk their lives for this country by forcing them to reveal their secret identities. No. The right thing to do is to stand together with your fellow superhumans and fight the Registration Act. Whose side are you on?
And that is when I gained respect for Captain America. Prior, I always seen him as just some dude with a shield who always enforced the rules. But seeing him lead the charge against the superhero act, I grew to like and or respect Captain America. And I still do to this day. This is what piqued my interest in Civil War and why it's one of my favorite comics, flaws and all. Was the execution in the comics perfect? No. However, I truly believe that this is a great concept to spark some interesting discussions about which side is right. Truth to be told, there is no clear-cut black and white solution to fix this problem. At its core, Civil War was a battle of ideologies that tore the superhero world apart. Now previously, upstanding heroes like Spider-Man would be turned into criminals if they did not comply with the government. In the comic, this pressured Spider-Man to finally come out and reveal his identity. Spider-Man's choice nearly cost Aunt May her life once his enemies found out that they were connected. Speaking of Spider-Man, let's go ahead and address his involvement in the movie. While I was personally not a fan of the suit redesign, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 had the best movie suit thus far, in my opinion. I enjoyed the scenes with the web head, and he added his own unique presence to the movie. That, however, does not change the fact that Spider-Man was not needed for this movie, and I'd be a total hypocrite if I didn't call it out. You can literally take Spider-Man out of this movie and little to nothing will change, except like the fight scenes. I thought Disney would work him into the plot since they had talks with Sony. I mean, he played an important role in the Civil War comic book. I thought that Spider-Man would essentially be the audience's point of view of the conflict, the Superhero Registration Act, trying to decide between the two extremes, pro-registration and anti-registration. However, Spider-Man's really just there to serve as an extended cameo. I mean, yeah, it's cool that he's there and all, but in all honesty, he doesn't really have a purpose in the movie. I know that Marvel's IPs are owned by 3 separate studios. I know they haven't had the time to introduce and or flesh out other superheroes outside of the Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Ant-Man, etc. for the casual movie-going audience. I know there are budgets, limitations, etc. that comes with making these movies, along with children being the primary audience intended to be family-friendly as a film. I've taken that into consideration. Let's just get into my 2 main deal breakers with the movie that prevents me from liking it. Deal breaker number 1, the lack of interesting superheroes. None of the Avengers particularly interest me. I mean, I respect Captain America, and Ant-Man's okay, I guess. We took essentially what was a superhero war with various Avengers, X-Men, Fantastic Four, etc. deciding whether either pro-registration or anti-registration was right and duking it out on the battlefield, and made it into, well, this. This picture pretty much sums it up. I don't know every single superhero and the expectation picture, but I know they are competent combatants and what will surely be a cool fight scene. I'm going to be real. The Avengers main lineup is decent. Just decent. In Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Avengers are Thor, Hulk, Captain America, and Iron Man. And to be honest, Black Widow and Hawkeye are just there for to be along with the ride, you know. But in this movie, the Avengers lineup just vacuums. The fighting matchups weren't all that interesting. The heavy hitters, Thor and Hulk, aren't here. And what's left feels like Disney was scraping the bottom of the barrel. Ask yourself, who's really a threat on the battlefield? Not that it matters. This quote-unquote Civil War is just an overglorified training exercise. It's Disney. There's no tension. There's nothing at stake. You know everyone will be okay in time for the next Avengers movie. Don't get me wrong, the action scenes aren't bad. I particularly enjoyed the Ant-Man and Spider-Man battle. The rest were meh. I mean, we had Black Widow versus Hawkeye. Again. Granted, this time their banner was interesting. And Deal breaker number 2. The lack of an ideological battle, or rather its poor and or limited execution. Basically, the UN wanted to make the Avengers sign a piece of paper that would give the UN the power to say when and where to send the Avengers instead of them acting on their own. This is what quote-unquote divides the team. No other superheroes are affected by this paper, just the Avengers exclusively. Iron Man is pro-signing, Captain America is anti-signing. This is a minor in-team disagreement being blown up into a quote-unquote civil war. Literally, a mountain out of a molehill. There's no battle of ideologies here. There's no gray area. This is strictly black and white. Captain America was right in this movie. Period. How so? Basically, at the signing of the Avengers paper thingy, a terrorist attack happens. Video shows the Winter Soldier did it. The government wants the Winter Soldier dead. Captain America intervenes and ensures that the Winter Soldier is captured alive. Captain America wants due process, and the American government are pretty much like, no need, he totally did it and he should die. Then, shocker. Turns out the Winter Soldier is actually innocent and was framed. Innocent of those crimes anyway. What he was accused of. Captain America's side tries to get the real bomber, and Iron Man's side intervenes to stop the rebels. In doing so, Iron Man's side was essentially fighting to kill an innocent man, while Captain America's side was fighting to prove an innocent man isn't guilty, or at least give him due process. Captain America even tried to tell Iron Man, hey, the Winter Soldier is innocent. The real bomber is... And then Iron Man just jumps in like, nope, he's guilty. I'm taking you in, Cap. Iron Man's side in this movie was being irrational and unreasonable, simply because the plot demanded it. As such, this film went out of its way to vilify Tony Stark. This movie was so one-sided on this paper-thin ideological battle that I honestly don't see a point to call it Civil War. It's a disagreement between two men, Captain America and Iron Man. That's it. I want to care. I really do. But there just isn't much at stake here to make me sympathize with Iron Man's side. Not even in the slightest. Think of the innocent, think of the indirect destruction and or casualties you have caused during your fights. Oh, you mean the fights where we won and saved the human race from extinction? Twice? It's amazing that a single mom caused Tony Stark to become so irrational. Since I view the ideological battle the core of Civil War, the fact that this film executed so poorly was the final nail in the coffin, since I already lowered my expectations due to the superhero roster and really dragged my feet to go see this movie. In my opinion, Captain America Civil War misses what the Civil War was about. Does this mean that Captain America Civil War is a bad movie? No. This movie is just a perfect example of the direct consequences of Disney making quote-unquote comic book movies that become overhyped, 2-hour advertisements that relies heavily on peer pressure to succeed. Otherwise, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you don't see the next movie, you will miss out on hints about the new movies that are coming out. Along with Avengers vs. X-Men, Civil War was a movie I wish would be made. When I heard it was going to be made, cautious optimism. Especially when I heard it was going to be the third Captain America movie. I had a feeling that Hollywood would do what it does best. I will admit, I enjoyed Civil War more than Avengers Age of Ultron, but that really ain't saying much. I'm not in a rush to see this movie again. I would much rather see X-Men Apocalypse again. That was what I would consider a good comic book movie. While it does have its flaws, it tried to just be entertaining in its own right. Captain America Civil War, just like a lot of Marvel's movies, they rely heavily that you see the past movies in order to enjoy the movie. And if you criticize the movie, it's like, oh, well, it's because you haven't seen the past movies that this ties into this whole bigger thing that you're not understanding. So that's like a cop-out from criticism. And that's pretty much why I didn't enjoy Captain America Civil War.